Police violence is one of the rising concerns and serious problems in Germany nowadays. Significantly, mostly the victims are racial minorities within the society that clearly indicate that this society is getting unsafe through the violent power exercise of the authoritarian state bluffing in the name of democracy.
Unrest.
Radio.
Welcome, dear listeners, to our episode 9. Today's episode, we will listen to a student who has faced racial police profiling and violence in Germany. In Germany, migrants, refugees, and people of color are often disproportionately affected by the police brutality. Police brutality has been a serious problem here, but many cases stay unreported and not properly investigated. Also, in today's episode, we have another guest from KOP Berlin who will share with us different aspects and prospects of this severe social and political problem. Let's listen to them.
I'm an international student. I have been living here in Germany almost 3 years, and I wanted to share. Yeah, there was actually particular two incident happened with me with the interaction with police, and yeah, when I came here, I had not so many friends. So I had a friend, and she had a daughter with her, and we because we are so close friends, the lady, the friend of mine, gave her daughter to me to take care of herself. And yeah, sometimes I took the child to in the park or in a playground like this. And yeah, once the mother was on her work, and I was taking care of the child in a park, in a playground. We are playing for some time. We are played there, and after that she was hungry, and I brought some food, and I was feeding her. And someone saw it. I saw the who is not who is following me with the child. Yes, when she was calling the cops, I also realized, okay, a little bit unsecured, because the way she is looking at me, it was not good, in a doubtful way. And then the cops came, and they're asking me, am I, where I'm coming from, and they're asking me about the papers, like, do I have the paper, like the Aufenthaltstitels, the residence permit. On that time, I don't have, because I was new here. I had the copy of my visa, so I showed them, okay, yeah, I'm a student here, and I lived here in Bochum and everything. And then they're asking me, like, what I'm doing with the child. I explained them that she's the daughter of a friend, and the mother is working for 1 hour, and that's why I'm spending time with her. And also the child also really loves to spend time with me. On that time when we were playing in the playground, the child was really happy, and we're we're like having the great, like, really nice time with me and the child. We're playing together. I feed her. I so often take care of her. And Then the police was not satisfied with my answer. I don't know why. Then they said, okay, you have to call the mother. And I was trying to call the mother, and the mother was busy in her work. So at the first time she couldn't pick, and the police was doubtful again. And they're asking me, did you call the mother? I said, yeah, I called, but she's not picking up the phone. Maybe she's at work. And they said, where is the workplace? I explained everything. Yeah, the mother was working here. And yeah, after 10 minutes, the mother called me back and asking me what happened. I explained, okay, there's a police came and they're asking for you and what I'm doing with the child. And yeah, my mother was nearby, and then she came in 5 or 10 minutes. I was there with the child in front of the cops, and the child got also scared when the police came, and the child was hugging me. And the mother came, and then the mother and the police, like the mother explained everything. Yeah, he's a friend of mine. Sometimes when I had work, I give my child to him. He took care of my child in a good way and everything. Yeah, I think it's actually because of my color. There was nothing, anything else can happen, because I saw so many people around me in the playground. Um, it's because of the color. When the people here saw a brown or a black people or a Chinese people around, they looked in a doubtful way. They looked at us in a doubtful way. Not every time, not every time. In some particular time. Yeah, I. Yeah, that's the thing actually. What that's happened with me. The first of all, I was really new on that time, and I felt scared. Actually, I felt really scared because the way the cops came and blocked me, like I'm a criminal or something. I did some crime or anything, and yeah, that's why I got scared. And they're asking me, who am I, what I'm doing here, where I'm coming from, where is my paper and everything. I was, yeah, it was not a good experience for me. It was, I feel really scared on that time because I was new. I was not conscious about, I was not, I don't know how to interact on this side, because it's the really first time experience for me. And the way they're asking me as if I did some crime. I was not. I was just taking care of the child in a good way, but the way they treated me, it was like I did some crime. The first experience, I was, I had really no idea. Like the people can judge you just because of you are not from here, and you cannot go in a playground with a child. It's like a crime here. The second incident is also similar like that. Yeah, I was I was also in the park with the child, and I was taking back the child to her home, and someone saw it on the street, and they called the police. And someone actually followed us, me and the child, the which home I was entering. And yeah, I entered in the house, and the police came. I was again really shocked. I was really shocked because the cops came to the house inside the building. They ring the bell, they came inside the house, and they are checking who is living there. And yeah, it was not my apartment. I was taking back the child to her place. Her mother was there, and the cops came inside, and they're asking who am I and what I am doing inside this house. And I said, this is the place of a friend. She's the friend, the mother. She's here. She lives here, and that's why I came here. I came here to visit my friend. And yeah, then they asked me what, like, what is my profession, where from where I came here, and where I stayed, like everything. Like they're asking me my personal details, like uh, am I working, am I a student, everything. I don't know, maybe they need this information for this their procedure or something. Maybe it's important in culture or something like that. But yeah, they're asking me. every details, from how long I know the person. And the police was asking why you are in this house. Yeah, it was a friend's place. The mother of the child was a friend. So I was bringing the child to the mother, and they came and they are asking me why I'm here. And I feel also again a little bit scared, because the way they are asking me, it was not friendly, because they're, maybe they had some doubts. The people who were complaining, maybe they said something untruthful, kind of something, and that's why the cops are interacting with me, maybe. The both of the incident, I feel a little bit insecure for myself. I think the people are asking me because of my color, my color of skin. And if I was a white person, then maybe nobody cared like this way, because the child was native here and I am brown. And maybe that's why they are thinking why these brown people is roaming around with the child, white people. I think, yeah, it's a kind of a racism, because of my the color of my skin. The people cannot accept me. People cannot accept me in a good way. I becomes a little bit reserved, because and try to be aware of the people, how the people are looking at me. And I know that is not good for me, because I it's not freedom. It's I cannot be free here. The people, when they are looking at me, when I am working in a with a child, with a white child, and the people are having some doubt, it's their fault, it's not my fault. And the way, like, I try to be a little bit much more reserved in outside. When people are looking in a doubtful way, I try to be normalized with a smile, and that's it. Yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it will not work. Yeah, you cannot change something.
Both of these incidents are severely disturbing and violent, and that shouldn't be tolerated in society. But unfortunately, the whole power structure is creating this kind of horror visual to the social psyche as a form of oppression. We invited the co founder of the Campaign for Victims of Racist Police Violence, KOP, Mr. Biplab Basu, to discuss about racial police violence in terms of in-depth and wider perspective of that issue.
Racialized police violence has always been in existence in Germany. There has never been a time when police forces did not target racial minorities, and whether violently attacking them or um, racially discriminating them or whatever, police violence has always been there. And what I consider as police violence is anything whereby the fundamental rights of people are being questioned, are being trampled. So, but because police for me, police is violence. You cannot think of in Germany, think of a police which is not violent. I'm not talking about non-violent, but talking about not violent. Yes, the uniform itself carries the weight of violence. Otherwise, we will have a completely different attitude and approach to police if uh, police would not mean violence. Yeah? So it has been always there, and it's still continuing. And it depends on um, time and particular places and so on when it is escalated when it is very visible, and when it is more um, um, coming to our notice. Because at times when the political parties are not competing each other for votes for elections, then they do not instigate with their speeches and with their uh, comments, instigate the police to use more violence. But at times when there are elections, when they compete each other for voters, they instigate the police. For example, now, right at this moment, it's there are two. There were two elections. One is when in Bavaria. I'm talking about not the general election of the whole country, but the state elections. There was a state election in Bavaria and the other state election at the same time on the same day in Hessen. So these two elections, as well as the European discussion on migration and asylum, refugees, has in fact produced so much violence and so much political hatred, racial hatred in the society that police feels it legitimate to use violent methods, whether at the border or inside the country, against racialized minorities and visible minorities. So, if you, as you asked me about the current situation is actually quite bad because of this whole question of populist approach to politics, which is extremely racist. Now, the thing is, there are a few definitions about racial profiling which are being used by activists and political workers. Our understanding of racial profiling is whenever police officers target people because of their race or ethnicity or racial markers, whenever they target these people, it's always racial profiling. Although our understanding of racial profiling generally is that sometimes it's a limited understanding. Very often people think that that it's only when police officers ask us, stop us somewhere, whether in the train, outside the trains, and on railway platforms or something like that, when they ask, or at the airport, ask us for our ID, that is racial profiling. In our understanding, that's a bit limited understanding of racial profiling. We think, why do police officers actually stop people, I mean, racialized minority people or visible minority people, they stop us and question us? It's not because they really want to see our IDs. They don't want to see our IDs. It's to criminalize us in the open, on the street, in public. So the heart of racial profiling is not checking your ID. The heart of racial profiling is criminalizing you. So actually, they want to criminalize us, and that's why they stop us, ask us for our ID. It's extremely underreported. We think, I mean, according to my understanding, it's about 5% which is reported, if at all. Why? Because one, minorities, migrants, I mean, racialized minorities, or however you term them, we all think that this kind of racial violence is something we have to cope up with, we have to live with, we have to accept. So, this is one reason why people don't think of reporting about it. Second is, Why should I report to anyone? Why should I report to anyone, any organization, any institution, or even to the police? What will I gain? In any case, no one is going to believe me. This is another major factor why people do not report. And the third factor is most people do not know where to report to. So these are the third factors. And in fact, the government institutions in Germany or the government itself is not very willing to find out the impact of racial profiling and the dimension of racial profiling because the white people are not targeted. It's only the racialized minorities. So when the white people rule us, they don't care whether we are being racially targeted, humiliated, and experience racial violence. These are the reasons I find to explain why it's underreported. Racialized minorities, on the one hand, they want to rely on the legal framework. They are generally willing to work within the legal framework. They do not want to violate. It's not their intention to create a revolution in this regard. What they want is a society of a state of law and order. It should be legal, but they have understood that the law has different meanings for different people, one for the white people, one for non whites. That's why kind of acceptance through resignation, you can call it, that they have understood that in this society they have less access to law, they have less chance to be heard, and so these are the reasons why the most people accept it. This is one reason why it is difficult to kind of bring into the notice of the international community what's happening, how racial profiling is so pervasive, and why one cannot combat racial profiling so easily. Because it is one, underreported, and secondly, those who are the major targets of racial profiling and racialized police violence, they themselves somehow resign. They think you cannot do anything. Because my experience is most people who come to me and report about their all these things, that's because they have lost faith in the justice system. First of all, they think I accept it as much as I can. It's only when they are being implicated, when they are being indicted and accused of something for which the punishment is very high, mm, or the stake is very high, then they come to us and report it. And then we realize that these are racialized police violence. Otherwise, people don't want to go anywhere. And secondly, the whole legal process is actually quite expensive, and it's not free for the accused people. Yes, so there is no such thing as public defender system like you have in the United States. So, I mean, where do I go? How do I provide the expenses for the cost of the lawyer? And so all these things make it very difficult for people to stand up against it. You know, there is one problem which we face is when we talk about racial profiling, we have an understanding which is not correct. Understanding is that it's a harmless police action. But racial profiling is one of the most harmful and most violent racism. But we think it's very simple. They come and stop you, ask you for your ID, and okay, you are being humiliated or you don't feel comfortable, but after 10 minutes it's over. But it's never over because how Muhammad was killed in Dortmund, you see, police came, saw him, and they knew he is a criminal. They assumed why? Because of his skin color. So they were quite sure he might be just sitting there, but He most probably is a violent criminal. So we have to approach him in a different way than if he were a white person. So if you separate this from racial profiling, then of course it's difficult to analyze. Racial profiling is not something completely different from a police activity of racially targeting minorities. It's not completely separated from it. And the second thing is the police can do everything without, with impunity, without any fear of um, accountability. They don't have to account for this, what they do, because they know they will be free in any case. It'll go on for some time. Some people will scream and shout and go out on the street, but the ones who are so vital for their existence, that is the prosecutors department, the justice department, and the political leaders, they are on the side of the police. They will not let it happen. Like they will not allow anybody, any institution to penalize the police officers who have done that. And this has been proved from, all throughout. In fact, you will not find one incident where police officers were being charged, indicted for murder or first or second or third degree murder. So when we think of, say, in the United States, the very famous case which everybody talks about, George Floyd, it's because the videos which shows the nakedness of the whole thing, as well as a sudden flare up of rejection of the police activities of policing, and also anger of the people, sudden flare up of the anger of the people, which kind of forced the authorities to indict this person, the police officer. But in all other cases around George Floyd, a little before and a little after George Floyd, nothing happened to them. Yeah, nothing happened to them. And similarly, Mohammed's case will go down one day, and Bilal case will also disappear. Maybe the Justice Department will ask the police department to pay a compensation of 10,000, 20,000 euro. But those who use their guns to kill this boy, they will go scot free. And this is one reason is also how we understand policing. Policing is never neutral. Policing is never harmless. Existence of police is always connected to extremely violent character. In fact, why does the state do it? But because the state actually is racist. It's a racist state, and the state wants it, that this racial divide should exist because that protects them. This racial divide is the line which they always want because they are on the safe side of the line. And if this racial divide does not exist, they fear that they will lose all their privileges one by one. So to have the dominance, to have the power to dominate the racial minorities, they need it. The state needs it. And that's why from time to time, different legal procedures they find out. For example, putting people in custody for more than 7 days. In Bayern, in Bavaria, it's 1 month, or whatever. Although their proclaimed goal is to have a law-based society, a rule of law, which they call, and it's exactly opposite of rule of law, because the state hasn't found anything to suspect me. The state cannot accuse me of anything, but presume that I could be a violent criminal. I could do something criminal. The state presumes, and on the basis of this presumption, the state puts me behind bar. which is exactly the opposite of rule of law. So this is what we see and what we experience and what we think is not only negative, but it is extremely destructive too.
In this note, we wanted to know about what an individual can do when they face or after they face racial police violence. At the same time, we wanted to know how society collectively can act for its resistance against it.
My first suggestion is do not neglect what's happening to you. Do not think it's part of my life. No, part of your life is to live freely, free of state interference. Police is state, and so any interference by the state is an infringement of your fundamental rights. So do not neglect that. Take it seriously and think of how you can overcome this, how you can fight this back. Think about it. And further, I can say that whenever a confrontation takes place with the police, confrontation in the sense of maybe peaceful confrontation, that is, the police stops you, asks you something like, yeah, note it down in your head or on paper, note it down, and then start thinking, what has really happened to me? And do not put it under the blanket. Do not put it away under the blanket. Take it seriously. And then talk to your friends, talk to other activists, and ask them what could be done. Are there any organizations, any institutions, or counseling centers where you could go and ask for advice? Before it, sometimes it's also important that before it becomes too late. For example, you receive a letter from the police. Many people they just ignore it. They don't think, so, oh, it's too much. I don't want to open the letter. So do not ignore it. Open it, look into it, read it. If you cannot understand because it's in a particular kind of German, it's written, ask your friends, ask counseling centers to interpret what is written, and then take some steps. Ask people who help you to overcome this. And one very important thing is do not rely on the neutrality of the police. Police is not neutral. The courts are not neutral. Prosecutors are not neutral. Even your lawyer may not be very neutral. Even your lawyer might, at some corner of his heart, believes that you might have done something wrong. So do not think that anybody is not neutral. Even you are not neutral. It's all right. It's nothing, there is nothing bad in it to be not neutral. We are not. So, and don't think police is your friend, police is there to help you. No, they don't. They are not there to help you. They are there to punish you. So if you think all these, if you have this clarity, then you take it seriously and you go against it. So it is very important to get rid of these myths. You know, these myths are you are you are facing a just society. You are in a non-racist society, and the courts are absolutely neutral. The prosecutor is absolutely neutral, and of course, there might be some police officers who are so-called bad, and most of them are good. No, that's forget about it. Think of them as institutions. Think of the police as institutions which is there to target you, and you don't want to be targeted. So take measures. Talk to friends. Talk to counseling centers. Talk to organizations which are giving you some support and help. So this is all I can suggest. And of course, you can always contact us KOP, Kampagne für Opfer rassistischer Polizeigewalt. You can always contact us. And even if you are not in Berlin, we are in Berlin. Even if you are not in Berlin, anywhere in Germany, you can call us and we will give you some informations and advices. I think we have to think of the society as also divided in colors. Society is not colorless, it's divided in colors. And it can only get rid of this problem when we fight institutional and structural racism in the society. So we cannot think of police as a as an island. It's not an island. It's sitting in the setup of institutional and structural racism, which is of course violent. So if we want a different scenario, then the society must realize that the white people are privileged and non-whites are underprivileged or not privileged. So they have to kind of fight these privileges. And if you have white allies, white friends, they have to accept that they live in a society which is divided into a privileged class and a non-privileged class, whether it's a economically privileged class or racially privileged class, but we are all into this structure of privilege and non-privilege or underprivilege. So society can only reject it by rejecting the majoritarianism in that. So they have to reject their own majority to come out of it.
Unrest Radio.